In July 2005, Britain held its breath for an announcement. London had bid to host the Olympic Games. If successful, it'd spark the UK's biggest and most audacious construction project.
The Games of the 30th Olympiad in 2012 are awarded to the city of London.
The crowd celebrated. Britain now had to host the greatest sporting spectacle on earth. And that wasn't all. London had swayed the International Olympic Committee's decision with a radical proposal to hold the world's first sustainable Olympic Games, leaving a legacy far beyond the departure of the Olympic torch. This would involve epic-scale urban transformation, the creation of a vast parkland featuring world-class stadiums, a gigantic construction project that wouldn't damage the environment, but enhance it. What's more, to do it all in just 4 years would call for a rewrite of the construction rulebook. In Canary Wharf, the planning of London 2012's Green Olympic dreams began. The Olympic Delivery Authority had a budget of £8 billion, and Chief Executive David Higgins was responsible for spending it.
This is something tangible. This is real, it's jobs, something will be left behind. It's a fantastic showcase for British engineering, design, planning, and construction and supplies.
The foundation stone to London's sustainable plans was the creation of a groundbreaking Olympic Park. Covering an area of 2.5 square kilometres, it'd be the largest British park to be developed in more than a century. Home to world-class sporting facilities for Olympic and public use, with rich and diverse habitats to boost London's wildlife.
We ensured that all of the main part of our money went into the permanent infrastructure. 75p in the pound of every single pound that's spent on this site will be here long term.
Two miles north of Canary Wharf, a site had been chosen for the Olympic Park in Stratford, East London. As one of the poorest and most deprived areas of the capital, it posed a major challenge.
It was rough. A lot of derelict land, a lot of contaminated waste, and had the detritus of industrial development, power lines, old pipes.
The tremendous task of turning this semi-derelict wasteland into prime Olympic real estate was taken on by Jan Hellings.
We were the very first people on the site, so the whole of the project really was dependent on us.
Without a moment to lose, the biggest demolition project in Europe got underway. The scale of the job was phenomenal. The site stretched to the horizon. More than 220 buildings had to be removed. Thousands of tons of concrete and bricks had to be cleared. But if the enormity of the task wasn't a big enough challenge, Jan also had to demolish in a sustainable way, saving 90% of the materials for later reuse on the site.
It would have been much easier just to knock things down and throw them in the back of a truck and then send them off somewhere else.
Instead of ending up in landfill, building after building had to be taken down piece by piece.
All the buildings, for example, that are being crushed are being used as foundations for other projects. And so the whole legacy, really, of the past lives on in the future.
Scores of excavators demolished and sorted the materials. But the derelict buildings weren't the only obstacles on site. More than 50 electricity pylons and kilometers of high-voltage cables crisscrossed the area.
I can remember coming to the site in 2003 and said it would never work with these huge, massive distribution pylons, 52 pylons, running through the middle of the site.
To liberate the land, the power lines had to be laid beneath the Olympic Park. The solution called for 2 6-kilometre-long tunnels. It was the biggest tunnelling operation in Europe. Its scale and complexity would normally have called for a 4-year programme. But this team had just 2. After months of working around the clock, the first of the underground teams finally broke into the daylight. But hidden in the soil lay a problem that couldn't be ignored. The land was severely contaminated. From the mid-19th century, Stratford was one of London's industrial powerhouses. Its factories supplied a nation and empire with manufactured goods. The world's first plastic was produced locally. But these processes produced highly toxic chemicals, and the pollutants would